I'm Hilary Fleck, the curator here at the Monroe County History Center.
And I'm Justin Robertson, the operations manager.
And we're here at the History Center talking about some movie posters from our collection here. All of these posters come from the historic Princess Theater, which opened in 1913 on the corner of 6th and College. It operated and showed hundreds of movies over the decades, unfortunately closing in 1981, and the auditorium collapsed in 1985. The historic facade is still there, though.
And it's a beautiful facade. I think it's the only terracotta facade in Bloomington.
I believe you're right,
It's a wonderful historical building, and believe it or not, I know this is going to shock you, but I was old enough to go to the Princess Theater.
What? No way! You're a spring chicken, Justin.
I was raised there, as well as the Indiana Theater, which we now call the Buskirk Chumley, and the Von Lee, and it was really wonderful to grow up at these fabulous movie palaces. That still had, little elements of their heyday. Mm-hmm. And the Princess Theater was actually a very beautiful theater back in the 1930s, and one of the most prestige theaters. Mm-hmm. By the time I started to go as a child in the 70s, it was the budget theater. Mm. Yeah, you saw things for a discount, and we'll talk about that later as we go through the film posters.
Yeah.
So should we start with the 1935 film poster of The Dark Angel?
The Dark Angel. So it says The Dark Angel, starring Frederick March, Merle Oberon, and Herbert Marshall. And we have a really nice banner that's been pasted onto the bottom. This is a pressed cardboard poster that was mass produced. It's huge, as you can see, 6 feet long. It's just really wonderful to still have the Princess Theater marquee on the bottom. It's really great. This is something that was never meant to be saved past the time that you showed the movie. So it's really amazing that it still survives.
Absolutely, because these were considered disposable objects. One thing about The Dark Angel was actually an Academy Award nominated film. It won for Best Art Direction, actually, in 1935. So this was a prestige picture, and it was produced by Samuel Goldwyn, who later went on to do Gone with the Wind. So one of the, best producers of the 1930s. Also, the cast is just stellar. That was a huge cast. And Merle Oberon was nominated for Best Actress in a Lead Role. So moving on to other pictures that were at the Princess Theater, and I love that this has the logo too, and then the handwriting coming soon, which is just in somebody's handwriting that worked there. But anyway, Can-Can was the highest grossing picture of 1960, and it stars Frank Sinatra and Shirley MacLaine, who in 1960 were at the top of their game. And so Can-Can was based on a play, as was actually the Dark Angel and the next movie we're going to talk about, because a lot of times movies and stage productions were really linked. They started out on the stage and then they became movies, more so than today. The next one's the same year, 1960, has that same handwriting on it, and this is the Marriage Go-Round. And it has Susan Hayward and James Mason, who were both very big stars of the 1950s. And it's sort of introducing Julie Newmar, who is reprising her role that she did in the Broadway play. But this is was a fun comedy romp and everything, and pretty typical of its time, I think, as the 60s were getting going, and it's sort of sexy and everything that's going on there. So,
and then we have one of these paper banners. They are printed, and these would be pasted on such a poster as the Dark Angel, like you can see here. The one, the Princess Theater, starting down at the bottom, and this would be Princess Now Playing. And so this is just an unused one that we have as part of the collection. And again, this is just part of just this amazing collection that these items are not meant to survive. It's printed on thin paper, pretty quickly, and is meant to be pasted and then thrown away whenever the movie is done. So it's really amazing that we still have some surviving pieces of the Princess Theater history. And then we have one that's a little bit different, but pressed board like the Dark Angel is. But this is the Shoemaker and the Elves.
Yes, and so these ones would stand up in the lobby.
Yes.
And this is where my own personal history comes in, is with the Princess Theater. At this time, it stopped showing prestige pictures, couldn't really afford them, and it would start showing movies such as The Shoemaker and the Elves, which is far more terrible than I think you even realize.
Okay.
I don't think we have an equivalent anymore, but so they would have these kiddie matinees of these absolutely god-awful films, and I would be drugged to them kicking and screaming, such as Santa Claus Conquers the Martians.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting pairing.
And so over here, the producer, K. Gordon Murray, he was known as the kiddie matinee filmmaker,
Sure.
as it were. And he would film these movies in Germany or even Mexico, and then they'd be dubbed. And one of the movies I remember seeing that he did was Red Riding Hood and the Monsters. But that was my childhood, the Princess Theater. By then it was sadly decrepit. And, it was the Bargain movie theater, and its heyday was gone. But, you know, I would have loved to have been there in the 1930s and seen the Dark Angel.
Yeah, it sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a look at items from the Princess Theater in our collection, and we hope you join us again next month.